Hi, everyone. Welcome to our 2019 Final Report webinar number 2. My name is Quang Vu. I am the Grants and Communications Coordinator for the Houston Arts Alliance in the Grants Department. Thank you so much for joining today. For our Final Report webinar number 2, we are going to be specifically focusing on Let Creativity Happen and Cities Initiative, and how you guys will be able to submit your final reports for those two programs with ease. And so to jump straight in to our webinar, today's agenda, we're going to start out looking at our housekeeping rules. Next, we're going to go into our final report overview. So what does it look like to submit your final report? What is a final report, and why do I have to submit a final report? Next, we'll look at deadlines for submitting your final report. And we'll start off looking at deadlines for Let Creativity Happen, and then looking at deadlines for Cities Initiative. And then we'll jump into the live demonstration of how to submit your final report, starting off with Let Creativity Happen, and then we'll shift gears and look at Cities Initiative. Then we'll look at tips for a successful submission, because we want to make sure that the first time you guys are submitting your final report, that you're submitting it with all of the correct material and information, and you don't have to backtrack and resubmit. And then we'll talk about the post-submission process. So what does it look like after you hit your submit button, and where does it go for your final report? Okay, so housekeeping rules. I won't be reading through all of this, as you guys can read it for yourselves on the screen, but essentially it'll be helpful if you guys have access to the final report portal, which we'll have uploaded later in the presentation. But you certainly don't have to have the portal open, as this webinar will run through the full material for submitting your final report. And then this webinar will be available as a resource on our website for you guys to use for future reference to submit your final report. Okay, looking at the final report overview. So what is the purpose of a final report? Essentially, a final report is a summary of your program and financial activities for your project that was funded by this city grant. And so you can only submit your final report once you've completed your project or seasons of activities that was supported by this grant. It is also a requirement that all recipients who were awarded a city-funded grant submit a final report. And then for this section here, I want to re-emphasize that this webinar is only discussing how to submit your final report for Let Creativity Happen and Cities Initiative for 2019. We will not be covering any final reporting processes for the 2020 annual grants programs or 2020 final reporting processes. So just looking mainly at 2019 and how you'll submit your final reports for Let Creativity Happen and Cities Initiative. Okay, next, we'll be talking about deadlines in a bit, but I want to emphasize that these deadlines for Let Creativity Happen will vary along with Cities Initiative, mainly because these are our two grant programs that have multiple application deadlines throughout the year. And what happens with multiple application deadlines means that there are multiple final reporting deadlines as well to follow those application deadlines. And then below that, I want to emphasize the point that you cannot submit your final report prior to the completion of your projects or programs that was supported by this grant. You have to have completed all components of your project or program in order to submit your final report, which is why it's a final report. And then at the bottom of the screen, you guys can see that we have a portal which will take you to our webpage for final reporting. All right, let's discuss Let Creativity Happen deadlines. So on the screen, what we've done as grant staff is we've organized award dates and deadline dates for when you have to submit your final reports to make it easier for you guys. On the left column, what you'll do is, if you know for yourself that you applied to the July 2018 Let Creativity Happen deadline and you were awarded the July 2018 Let Creativity Happen cycle, then you can look to your right on the deadline date column and see that you have to submit your final report by September 5th, 2019. This makes it easier because if I was awarded, let's say April 2019, I have to submit by this date. And so you can add this date to your calendar. You can set up notifications for yourself. You can do whatever you need to make sure that you don't forget about your final reporting deadline date. And again, these dates on here apply to you if you were awarded. If you got an extension, then you'll refer to your extension paperwork for the new date that you have to submit your final report on. Next is the city's initiative deadlines. Deadlines for cities' initiatives are outlined in your contract. So you'll refer to your contract on the first page. You'll see the start date of your project and the end date of your project. You'll add 45 days to the end date of your project, and that is your final report deadline date. It's also detailed in your contracts that you have to submit your final report 45 days after the completion of your project. Again, if you were awarded an extension for your city's initiative grant, then the new date that you have to submit your final report will be your new extension date in your extension paperwork. So please refer to your extension paperwork. If you don't have access to your extension paperwork or access to your contract to review your deadline, please reach out to grant staff or a member of the grants team, and we will provide that to you guys. Okay, that covers that. Now we're ready to go into the live demonstration for Let Creativity Happen, and then to Cities Initiative. So, if you guys remember, the link that I showed on the screen earlier takes you to this page. This page on the screen is our final reporting webpage on our website. So here, you'll click Final Report Form for Let Creativity Happen. That will take you to this submittable page. And so for all final reports, if you don't have an account with Submittable, that is your first step, is to create an account with Submittable so you can start on your final report, because you won't have access to the portal until you do. The great thing with Let Creativity Happen's final report is that everybody who applied to Let Creativity Happen had to use Submittable to create their application. So you guys can actually use your same sign-in information to start on your final report form. So you won't have to create a new account, so that's great. You'll click here to sign in. And since I already have an account, I'm going to hit sign in so I can have access to the final report portal for Let Creativity Happen. And here is pretty basic information that you'll have to fill out. I won't read through it, as you guys can see it for yourselves. Award year is essentially when you were awarded your Let Creativity Happen grant. And then for your award number, this is a 6-digit number that can be found on your contract. Your contract should be in your email inbox. If you don't have access to your contract, again, you're welcome to reach out to a member of the grants team and we will help you locate it. And then here for total award amount, you'll put $2,500 because that's the award amount for this grant program, unless you requested for a lower amount. For the remaining balance, that is 20% of your total award amount. So that's why I'm putting $500 here. Next, if you guys remember earlier, we talked about extensions. So if you guys got an extension, you'll mark yes here and put your new extension date here. If you didn't, you'll put no. And then here you will put the original end date for your project or the end of your grant term. Next is project summary. For project summary, we're limiting you guys to 100 words, and you guys can use the same project summary that you had in your initial application for Let Creativity Happen. Next is the financial documentation section. So to start this section off, you'll click this short link here, which will take you to a Dropbox page. Once you're on the Dropbox page, you'll go ahead and download your blank template of the Financial Final Report Excel form. and the download will start in the corner. You'll click and open your download. And then, editing, there we go. Okay, so once you're in your template for your financial final report, you'll see two tabs on the bottom. The first tab that says instruction and the other tab that says detail financials. For the instructions section, it is both in attestation and instructions tab. So the first part is we want to make sure you're reviewing all of this information before you agree to it. And essentially what it is you're agreeing to all of these line items here that says all of the items reported are subject to audit by HAA for up to 3 years. From the date submitted, all of the items fall within the HOT compliance as detailed in your contract and listed below. And we just want to make sure that you guys are aware that you are attesting to this information here. In the section below, what we're looking at is the what may not be funded attestation. And so we want to make sure you guys are reviewing this section and making sure that when you start working on your detailed financials that you are not including any of this information here under what is ineligible to include as a detailed financial in your final report financial section for your project. Once you guys understand, then you guys can't include any of that information. You'll go ahead and check this box here. And then to complete the instructions and attestation section of your financial final report, you'll sign your name or type your name in here, you'll date, and then you'll title here. And if you're an individual artist or creative, you'll put individual artist or individual creative in the title section. Once you're done with that, you will move into the detail financials. And so here you'll start by putting your name and then your 6-digit grant number below that. And then what we want to see in the detail financial section is the total expense report for your grant that you received. So for Let Creativity Happen, it's $2,500. So here you should detail the full description of all of the expenses adding up to $2,500 under your project. And so we should see in the total at the bottom here, and the running total here, the full $2,500 for the grant that you were awarded. Once you've done that, you'll go ahead and hit save, exit out of your financial final report, and then go back and upload it here. And then you'll reconfirm your grant award number here, which is a 6-digit code that you'll put here. Under that, for total expenses, it's reconfirming that everything in your financial final report adds up to $2,500. Next is the financial documentation section. As you can see here, we are only taking PDF files. So please make sure once you start working on this, that when you complete it, it is a single PDF that contains all your bank statements, your checks, your credit statements, your invoices, your receipts for the project in a single PDF format. I've already done it on my end, and I've included it as all financial documentations, and that is what I am uploading here. Essentially, all the financial documentations here should be supporting all of the financial expense items in your financial final report here. And so for each line item in your financial final report, there should be a piece of financial documentation here to support what you're including here. And again, you're verifying the same information here, and you'll check these 4 boxes, and that completes the financial section of your final report. Next, we're moving into the marketing section of your final report. So the first part is we want to make sure you guys have a screenshot of your event on the cultural events calendar. What we mean by your event is your public presentation of your project that was funded by the city grant, which is the Let Creativity Happen project. And if you guys were able to successfully submit your event on our cultural events calendar, this is what your screenshot will essentially look like, and this is what you'll have uploaded. This section for your cultural events calendar upload is a contractual obligation and requirement that you have to fulfill as a grantee. Below that is the marketing material section that you also have to complete and is contractually required as a grantee as well. And for the marketing material section here, we want to make sure that your marketing material has the proper HAA and City of Houston logo and credit line in your marketing material. Here you can see in the icon that I have both HAA in the top left corner and the City of Houston in the bottom right corner. And that shows that I've correctly included the HAA and City of Houston logo in my marketing material. And make sure that when you're uploading it, that you're including it in the acceptable file types as well. Okay, next, we're looking at our Let Creativity Happen 8x8 presentations. And so if you guys haven't heard of it before, this is something that you guys can actually participate in as an LCH grantee. And so if you haven't presented at one of our 8x8s before, you'll select no. And then if you are interested in presenting at our 8x8s, you'll select yes here. And what we'll do on our end is if you've marked yes here, we'll make sure to directly reach out to you to ask if you would like to present at our 8x8 presentations. And it's essentially just you talking about your project for 8 minutes during our 8x8 presentations. Okay, next we're looking at the work sample section. Here are the acceptable file types, and you can upload up to 10 files of your event. And so these are event images from your public presentation. Here I've already uploaded 2 images from my event, and you guys can see it there in the icons. And then that completes the Let Creativity Happen final report. You'll type your name in here and hit submit. Once you've hit submit, if everything is done, then you will receive a notification. Or if you guys weren't able to complete it, but you need to go back, you can always hit Save Draft. This is a new feature that we have on Submittable, where you guys can save your final reports, and it'll be in your My Submissions section of your profile that you can go back and continue working on your final report if you have to step away to take a call, or you have to go for lunch, or just something that interrupts you from completing your final report. You no longer have to complete it in one session, and you can save your draft. Okay, so that is the full live demonstration for Let Creativity Happen. Let's go ahead and look at the live demonstration for Cities Initiative. So here, this is the live demonstration for it. To access this portal, you guys will just simply click the link below the final report form for Let Creativity Happen, which is the Cities Initiative final report form, which takes you to this page here. Again, you'll have to create an account. If you already have an account with Submittable, you'll hit sign in. All right, so pretty basic information from the final report, and it's pretty similar to our Let Creativity Happen one that we discussed earlier. You'll put that information here. If job title isn't present, and you'll go ahead and put project manager or whatever is most relevant to your current job title. And then for grant number, again, that is your 6-digit number that you are including there. Below that is the award amount total. And for Cities Initiative, we're putting in 10,000. And the award amount remaining is 50% of the total award amount, which is 5,000. And that'll be the final payment as well for Cities Initiative. Your grant term start dates and your grant term end dates are determined by your project start dates and your project end date. Again, this is information that you guys can also find on your contract, and it is on the first page of your contract as well. And so once you guys have access to your contract, you'll input the start date of your project here and the end date of your project here. Again, this is the same extension information field that you'll fill out if you received an extension. Moving on to the demographics section of your final report, you'll click here to access your blank template of the demographics final report form. Make sure you hit direct download to get it, and then you'll open up your template here. And this is essentially what it looks like. And what we want to see here is, what was your audience reach? Who did you reach out to? And what did your audience breakdown look like for your event specifically? And you'll fill out these numbers here for audience numbers, and make sure you're confirming once you're putting the information here that it's as accurate as possible. We also understand that these numbers are hard to get, so if you do have to include estimates here and there, that is acceptable. But we want to make sure that you guys are filling out the section to the best of your ability. Okay, and once you've completed this section, you'll hit X. Make sure you've saved your Excel demographics report. And then you'll go back, and here you'll upload the demographics report right there. And you'll know if it's been successfully uploaded once you receive the XLSX icon. Here, you'll put City Council District Served. So we want to see, where did you host your event? In what council district was it hosted? If you're not sure, a way that you can find out is we've included a link that links to the City of Houston's Who is My Council Member webpage. You'll go here and input your address in this section for your event. Once you've input your address in that section, the system here will populate your council district representative, and that's how you'll know which council district your event was in. Once you're done, you'll go back and select the council district in which your event was hosted. And then for this section, you can get the numbers for total number of people served directly and estimate number of persons reached from your demographics final report, and just input it into these two fields. And that covers your demographics section of your final report. Next, we're going to take a look at the narrative questions here. So for the narrative questions, you can use the same information that you used from your application for project summary. Next, in deviations and lessons learned, we want to see where you deviated on your project, what caused those deviations, what did you learn from those deviations, and through the completion of your project, what were some lessons that you took away? And for the narrative sections, your limit is 100 words each. Next, we're looking at cultural tourism impact. So how did your event impact the arts and cultural tourism of the City of Houston and provide arts marketing through your event? And then you'll have questions on the side to help you navigate and understand what is an appropriate response for each narrative section. Lastly, for the narrative section is your project successes. So what were your greatest triumphs? What did you do really well? What do you want to brag about in this section? And our limit is, again, 100 words. Once you've completed that, we're moving into the project documentation section. And so here, very similarly to Let Creativity Happen, both these sections for a screenshot of your event on the cultural events calendar and having marketing material with HAA and the City of Houston's logo and credit line are contractually obligated for you to do and for you to upload in your final report here. And so you'll have to include files in this section and this section. Next is the financial information section. And so it operates very similarly to our Let Creativity Happen grant program that we just discussed. You'll click here to access your financial final report form, and it's a blank template that you'll fill out. You'll attest to the same things in your financial final report form. The only difference here is, since it's a larger grant, you'll probably have more expense items in your expense report for how you fully utilize the funds in the grant. And that's what we want to see as well. Below here, we want to make sure you guys are uploading financial materials to support all of the financial expenses that you included in your financial final report. And you'll also consolidate all of that information into one file. We want to make sure that you're including all of your bank statements, your receipts, your invoices in a single PDF format or these acceptable file types. After that, you'll check all of these boxes to verify that the financial reporting information is true and accurate. And then you'll conclude your final report submission by typing in your name and understanding that you are verifying and certifying all of the information in the final report. And again, you can click Save Draft if you have to walk away and work on something else. Okay, so that covers our live demonstration for both Let Creativity Happen and Cities Initiative. So let's go ahead and talk about tips for a successful submission really quick. So the first thing I want to emphasize is completion. Completion is so important. You have to double check, triple check, and ensure that all of the information there doesn't have any incomplete or incorrect material. The reason why is because incomplete submissions will delay your final payment, because we will have to reach out to you and let you know the issues within your incomplete submissions. And until those things are fixed, we cannot issue your final payment. Next is documents. So as you guys can see on the screen, what we've done is included a checklist for you guys of the external documents that you will have to have in order to complete your final report. And so you can refer to the document section to make sure that you're good to go on all the documents here. And below that, I want to re-emphasize the save feature as well. So if you have to walk away and return to your work, you're more than welcome to use the save feature and take your time submitting your final report so that it's accurate and you're not rushing yourself. Okay. Let's look at the post-submission process. So what happens after you hit the submit button and send in your final report to the grants team? The first thing is I want to let everyone know that final payments, if you're submitting your final report, will be issued after January 31st, 2020. The reason being is payments are processed upon disbursement, or essentially when we get paid from the city of Houston. And for us, that happens approximately in late January 2020. So that's why we cannot issue any final payments until after January 31st, 2020. Okay, so again, when you submit your final reports to us, we typically process it in a 30-day window. And then final reports are reviewed on a first-come, first-served basis. Next, if everything is good to go, we will approve and process your final reports for final payment. If everything isn't good to go, you will receive communication from grant staff letting you know that there is an issue with your final report, and until it is complete, we cannot issue your final payment. Okay, next, the payment process typically takes 2 to 3 weeks for processing and disbursement into your bank account. So, just so everyone is aware that once final payments start after January 31st, 2020, you guys actually won't see any of your final payments until February, or starting February of 2020. And then after that, I do want to make sure that everyone understands that they will be receiving a 1099 tax form in the mail from HAA. They will be postmarked and mailed by January 31st, 2020. The reason why is anyone who receives a grant from HAA through the City of Houston through HAA, you guys are considered to be independent contractors, which is why you will receive a 1099 tax form. And this will be sent to your physical mailing address. So, I want to make sure that before you guys walk away from this webinar that everybody has up-to-date banking and contact information on file. This is your ACH paperwork that you had to fill out at the beginning of the year, or the beginning of your grant term when you were awarded your grant. And so if you believe that the ACH information and paperwork that we have on file is no longer up to date with your current banking information, please reach out to a member of the grants team and let us know, because we want to make sure that we are paying you guys on time and to the correct bank information that we have on file. The other thing is, we want to make sure that your physical mailing address and contact information is correct as well, because you guys will be receiving a 1099 tax form in the mail. So if you guys have moved, if you guys are no longer in the same location anymore, email us. Let us know. Let us know of the new physical mailing address and the new contact information we should be reaching you out by, just so that everyone is proactive about it. All right. And that concludes our final reporting process for our webinar number 2. So again, thank you everyone for tuning into this webinar. And if you do have any questions, please reach out to us at our online support desk, which is available on our final reporting webpage for any technical issues that you run into while you're submitting your final report. And on behalf of the grants team, I want to wish everyone a happy holidays. We look forward to being of assistance and helping you guys close out your amazing city-funded projects with ease. Thank you so much, everyone.